Welcome back. The Supreme Court is agreeing to hear President Trump's order limiting birthright citizenship, a principle that's been the standard U.S. law since the 14th Amendment was adopted in 1868. Now, this order would block automatic citizenship for children born to non-citizen parents. A ruling is expected to come in spring 2026 and could rewrite who qualifies as an American citizen.
For more, let's bring in our legal scholars, criminal defense attorney Daniel Betts and former Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael J. Wynne, as well as our special guests in studio, the one and only former federal prosecutor Doug Burns, our resident expert, and Jenny Beth Martin as well, who is also with us in studio. All right, who are we going to start with? Daniel, let's go to you first. Your reaction. Can the president do this?
So I think originally the intent of the 14th Amendment was not to allow anyone who is in the country who has a child here to just become a citizen. And I think you just have to go back to the legislative history in 1866 to look at what the senators were saying at the time. They specifically said that foreigners, aliens, and the children of diplomats were not intended to be covered by this. And if you look at every other non-developing nation in the world at this time, nobody else has birthright citizenship. And I think that the Trump administration is right to go after this. The question is subject to the jurisdiction thereof and what that means. And that means not having any allegiance to another country. And having come here from another country, you do have that allegiance.
I was going to give a follow-up to you, but I saw Doug nodding along. Well, but Doug, also just tell me why you were nodding along, but at the same time, who does qualify then?
I'm nodding because Daniel raises language that everybody on the other side just conveniently ignores completely, which is if you're born in the United States and they go, aha, that's it, case closed. No. And subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which, as was just explained, is more than enough room to turn around and say that the offspring of two people who broke the law, specifically to come into the United States, are not. Now, where I come out on it, though, is that you don't need a constitutional amendment, but at the same time, I don't think the president can do it by executive order. I think Congress has to amend the statute because also Daniel pointed out about children of diplomats, children of people with allegiance to other countries are not citizens. Congress should just add in, and children born of two people who broke the law are not citizens.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is undisputed that the 14th Amendment was enacted to address newly freed slaves so they could become American citizens. There's no question about that. But, Michael, the more tactical question, if this upholds, if the court actually upholds order, what will happen to the children that are already born under the old standard? What's the practical implications should the president win here?
Look, I think this is going to be a heavier lift than we might hope. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof has been interpreted about 100 years ago by the United States Supreme Court to exclude, particularly, as one of your guests mentioned, children of diplomats, children of foreign occupying force, or children born on an American Indian reservation, and that those are the carve-outs, not necessarily those who were born. People came into the United States illegally, and so I think this is going to be a heavy lift for the president. I was a federal prosecutor on the border for about 12 years, very well aware of the problems there. I'm not sure this is a vehicle we want, but if they'd like to, the Supreme Court, and they've shown an ability to do so, they want to split hairs. The ground I described is the way they would do it.
Yeah.
They're not always in your corner.
Sure. I do want to shift gears now, though, to these U.S. military strikes against the drug trafficking vessels down near Venezuela. Obviously, they're heating up, with powers debating in Congress. Lawmakers even warned the operations may exceed the president's authority. While the administration has continued to exist, it has full legal backing. The question goes to you, Daniel. Did the Navy act within the law of armed conflict, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that the question here under the Geneva Convention is whether or not those combatants were hors de combat, whether or not they were out of the fight. It seems clear from especially what Senator Cotton said that they were attempting to get their vessel back in order, that they were attempting to rejoin the fight. And even if wounded, if you are not incapacitated such that you prove an additional threat, and they did prove an additional threat from what we know, then you're a fair target. And I think that the military did exactly what they should have done in that instance. There were a few minutes between those strikes. They made an assessment. There wasn't an order to kill them all. That's nonsense. And that story was nonsense from the beginning.
Jenny Beth, do you think Congress is overstepping by questioning these moves?
Well, we know that other presidents have taken action, and Obama did the same thing, and he had drone strikes and follow-up strikes after the initial strike, and apparently had another strike on top of it. It's something that has happened before, and President Trump is trying to protect Americans. He's trying to prevent deaths from fentanyl poisoning. And if you've talked to people like I have whose children have died from fentanyl poisoning, you understand if it takes a lot to do this, we need to be serious about getting it done so more Americans don't die needlessly.
Totally, yeah. Michael, let's dive deeper into this, though, because Admiral Bradley, he briefed Congress on the controversial strikes, which there were survivors of, allegedly, and then the US went and then killed them in the follow-up strike. Bradley insists, though, that there was no kill them all order, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has defended the strikes now, even following up the double tap that they're calling it now. So can Pete Hegseth face any real legal consequences here with this?
Absolutely not. You know, it was a short time. You can't, there's nothing to be done that's constructed by second guessing our top military decisions at this time. There was no such order. He was out of the room. The Admiral needed to make a decision, needed to make it quickly. You know, Congress has declared war 5 times in our country's history. And it's built, the military structure is built to allow, you know, the people on the field that we trust, well-seasoned, to make these kinds of decisions.
All right, we do have to leave it there. We have a hard break here. Daniel, Michael, thank you both so much. Jenny, Doug, don't go anywhere.